What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the A Ward Show. I am your host and curator and engineer and video. I'm all the things. I am A Ward, and I thank you guys for tuning in to another episode. This is episode 4, and we got a lot of stuff to get into. But before we get into all of that, make sure you go hit that link tree and you go hook up with your boy on all my socials, whether it be Instagram, TikTok. Man, the love has been incredible, and I thank you guys for pulling up. Make sure you tell your friends, tell their grandmama and them to pull up to the A Ward Show. Watch me on YouTube. Follow me on my socials. And if you can't watch, if you are a busy person, you're in the whip all day, I am on major podcast platforms, audio podcast platforms. I'm on Apple, I'm on Spotify, I'm on iHeart. So if you just want to listen to the randomness that I'm talking about, go ahead and shoot over to your favorite podcast platform, pull up, and we can have a great conversation. But now let's get on to some sports, because man, what a weekend it was. Man, what a weekend it was. And depending on how the weekend went, and as of this recording, it is still the weekend. I'm shooting on a Sunday in the evening, so I've been able to watch the morning football games, the afternoon football games, and obviously I was able to watch Game 7 of the World Series. And depending on how that went, it might have changed this episode. But like Kanye West said, I guess we'll never know. Now, let's get into the sports section, my favorite part of the show. This is Yo No Say Nada.
Yo no sé nada.
All right. I know some of you watching may be upset with me right now. I know a lot of you watching are very happy right now because the World Series Game 7 was a masterpiece, and the World Series as a whole it's why the World Series might be the best championship series of any major team sport. So let's get into it. The last episode 3, it was only game 1 and 2 that were on the books at that time of the recording. And since then, we had every other game happen. And so let's break down what happened. I'm going to try to break down what happened. So we go on to game 3, the never-ending game, right? 18 innings, second longest in World Series history. It tied for the amount of innings, but the actual time of the game was shorter, and that's because of the pitch clock, things that they have done to change the speed of the game. But man, incredible game. Obviously it tied and went to the extra innings, and then, the bullpens for both teams were being used like crazy. And it looked like that game wasn't going to end. It looked like that game, like we were just going to have to rest our laurels on that freaking game because it was so long. And then Freddie does what Freddie does. There are stars and there are superstars. And in baseball, sometimes you'll have guys that, the unsung heroes, the guys that aren't really, your big name type of guys. But Freddie's a big name, and he shows up. It doesn't matter what kind of game he's having. It doesn't matter if he's 0 for or 1 for or, not playing great at the plate. Those moments are really made for guys like Freddie. And we saw it last year in the World Series where he just showed up. He showed up when the Dodgers needed him the most, and he did it again for Game 3. And when that game ended, I felt like that was an altering a momentum altering game because of how it ended. And I really thought that, it being in LA, the Dodgers were able to go home where, the Blue Jays were not, right? They're on the road. So they're going back to hotels. And I thought, the Dodgers would be a little bit more well rested. But we get into game 4. And look, man, Toronto came out blazing in game 4. And they looked more rested. Dodgers just looked unbelievably tired. Like they looked exhausted. And Shane Bieber was absolutely great for Toronto. Pitched well. Ohtani was good, but you could just tell he was just exhausted. And Ohtani has a lot on his plate. Being the marquee guy on the team, right? Game 3 they chose to walk him a numerous amount of times. I think it was 5 times they walked him at the end of that game because his bat was going crazy in game 3. And they just did not want him to be the hero. Like they were like, anybody else can do it. And it just can't be Ohtani. But the things that the Dodgers are asking of him, and he shows up. Pitching, hitting, base running. It's why I said on one of the earlier episodes, last episode I believe, is Ohtani might be the greatest. I mean, I look, he still has a long career to go, but what they ask from him and what he's able to deliver, daily, weekly, it's amazing. But he did look exhausted in game 4. And, the RBIs, man, were really the difference. They were really the difference for Toronto. And that's going to ring true throughout the whole series. Like their ability to hit with runners on base and move runners, Toronto they outclassed them in game 4, and they did it again in game 5. But the storyline for game 5 was savagery. It was savagery because it was Trey Yesavage. He straight up owned the Dodgers. Like, I don't know if in game 5 they just gave him a little bit of stock in the Dodgers. I don't know if, because he was pitching his life away. He was pitching his life away. 12 strikeouts in that game from Trey Yesavage. Young boy, man. And the Blue Jays have to be extremely excited about Trey Yesavage and his future for that team. Like we talk about, I said on another episode, we talk about, paying for players and making sure that, everybody wants to say Dodgers are paying for everybody and all of these things. Well, Toronto, you got one down there. You better give him that bag. Because Trey Yesavage showed his ass during this series, during the whole series, but definitely in game 5. Snell, not so great, for the Dodgers. And I really thought he would be a little bit better during this game. Definitely he probably the healthiest he had been in a while with not really playing a ton during the regular season. But he wasn't great, and they got to him early and often, and, it just wasn't good. And the bats for the Dodgers weren't good. And they were quiet pretty much throughout the series. I mean, outside of game 2 and 3, and even game 3, there's more in game 2, they were really good. Game 3, obviously, the longest game ever. But the bats were so quiet. They left so many runners on base. And the storyline, up until, game 5 was like Toronto could hit and they're hitting with people on base. Dodgers can hit, but they're hitting with nobody on base. So every time Toronto hit a home run or a long line drive, they had people on base that they were moving, that were scoring. And every time the Dodgers hit a home run or a long hit, it was nobody on base. Like they either left runners on base, or when they did hit, there was nobody on base. So that was really the story of game 5. And then we get into game 6. And I'll tell you, going into game 6, it did feel like throughout the series, it felt like Toronto was the better team. And that might still be true. I'll be honest with you. Toronto played extremely well. And, I was as a fan, I was happy for the day rest that the Dodgers were going to get. But I thought, man, dude, yeah, they're getting rest, but they're also going on the road. And maybe that was the difference from game 3 to 4 and 5, was that Toronto had no distractions. Even though they were in the hotel, they weren't home, they had no distractions. You go home, you still gotta, hang out with your kids and make sure wife is good, and so I think Toronto maybe didn't have any distractions, so they were a little bit more well rested, game 4 and 5. And then I thought going into game 6, Toronto really they felt like they had the Dodgers number. But it's Yamamoto. He's no longer Yamamoto. He is Yamamoto, because the juice that he was thrown with, the control, again, give up a run early. Okay, there it goes. But he just gets to cooking. And Dave Roberts' trust in Yamamoto, was so evident during this series. And obviously we're going to get into game 7. But he trusts Yoshinobu. He trusts Yamamoto to kind of get through it early and just dissect the opposition. And you can see the confidence that he has gained through the 2 complete games. And then, walking into game 6, that it was like, okay, we have our best guy. We don't need to be incredible hitting wise. We just need to get through. We just need to get a couple runs on. Springer was back. Springer got hurt in game 3. I want to say game 4. I can't remember. But he was out for a couple games with a serious injury. Like normally, if this was in the regular season, he would have been out for weeks. Kudos to him for toughing it up, man. That's real stuff, man. Like, shout out to Springer for Toronto for toughing it up. Like, this is the World Series. He's like, I want to be there for my team. And he went out there, and he was obviously hurt. And the Dodgers pitched to him like he was hurt, but he fought through it. Every time he went to swing, you could just see him wincing. But he fought through it, man. And in the end, man, game 6, Robleski, Sasaki, which another Dave Roberts decision to take a guy who's supposed to be a starter, make him a closer with Sasaki, and he had pitched well during the series. He had some moments, but he pitched well during the series. Kike coming up with big defensive plays. Rojas defensively as well in game 6. But I know everybody wants to talk about the wall ball. The ball got stuck in the wall. That wasn't a bar. Ball got stuck in the wall on a Toronto Blue Jays hit. Dodgers throw their hands up, ground rule double. And look, they were smart for throwing their hands up. And whether it was stuck or not, they made sure that the umps had to make that call as a ground rule double, because if they don't, that game might be 100% different. And we ain't even talking about game 7. So, you gotta be, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? The games be sold, not told, like I said. But then we get to game 7, and man, this World Series, it felt electric for game 7. The back and forth. Toronto dominates game 1, game 2 and 3. The incredible, Dodgers win great in game 2, and then an incredible fashion with Freddie winning at the end of game 3 with that long ass game. And then game 4 and 5, Toronto dominates pretty much. Like, they showed that they are the real deal. Then game 6, Yamamoto comes out and does his thing, the wall ball, right? Like, the storylines had just built this whole thing up into game 7. And I'll be honest with you, there's not a person in this in this world, if you are honest about what you saw on the field, that said the Dodgers were clearly a better team. I know they were saying that going into the series, and I said, look, don't discount the Blue Jays. They were incredible during the regular season. They figured it out as they went through the playoffs. A lot of people had them written off against the Mariners, but they did their thing. And they are the real deal. Like, there's not a Dodger fan in this world. There's not a person that watched baseball in this world that wasn't going into Game 7 thinking Toronto might mess around and do this for real. And it felt like that was going to be the case. Shohei starts the game off and wasn't great. Had some moments, wasn't great. Scherzer for Toronto played really well, pitched pretty well. It did feel like they were going to have him on a pitch count, and they did. And maybe that kind of shifted the game when it did. But Toronto was hitting out the gate, man. Like, out the gate. They were hitting, and it was like, oh, here we go. But then, as the game went on, it was still close. And if you're watching the game and you're sitting there, you're like, well, Toronto's kind of dominating, but they were leaving runners on base, which they had not done during the series. It was always the Dodgers leaving more guys on base than Toronto. And then you looked up and it was like, no, Toronto's leaving a ton of people on base. And I did feel like, man, if this thing is close, a run, 2 runs going into the 9th, that's where that experience, just did this last year, did it 5 years ago. That experience is going to be the thing that changes the game. Is like, some people are going to get tight in those moments because they've never been there, and the Dodgers have, and they have a bunch of guys who have been there. And it's not just about hitting; it's about defensive plays, and we'll get into some of that. But it's just like the mindset, like controlling how you attack this moment, the tunnel vision. And that's what happened. Rojas comes in the 9th, 4-3 ball game. And I'm like, yo, I'm sitting there. I told my wife, I'm like, I don't know why, but I feel like Miggy's going to hit something crazy here. Like, he is, this is what these moments are made for. Sure enough, hits a bomb to tie the game. Will Smith so game goes extra innings. Will Smith ends up hitting a hit in the extra innings to win the game. But the story again, man, was Yamamoto, man. And I sat there and I said, before the game, they said Yamamoto wasn't going to pitch. He wasn't going to be available. And I did say, like, after they kind of went through, they got Shohei pitched and then Snell and, or I think it was then Snell, then Robleski, then Glasnow. So they used all of their starters, plus Robleski, going into the end of that game. And I'm like, you got to go get Yamamoto to come in and end this game off. I would not, like, as much as some of these other guys are good, if you're going to lose, you got to die on the hill of the best player that's been playing this world, the best pitcher that's pitched this World Series, and that's Yamamoto through the playoffs, really. And sure enough, not even 30 seconds later, I'm watching TV and I'm like, oh yeah, he's warming up. Yep. Good on you, Dave Roberts. Good on you, bud. And that, I don't think people understand. Dave Roberts is so meticulous with the way he's always approached the game. There's always been like this nervousness to how he, either puts in pinch runners or whatever the case may be, and definitely with the pitching staff. He's always been very meticulous and kind of worried and analytical. And so for him to twice the playoffs, say, nah, Yamamoto's going to close it out. And then in the biggest game of the World Series, Game 7, like, this is the stuff, if you're a young kid playing baseball, if you're a young, kid watching baseball, As you grow up, it's like it's always Game 7 of the World Series. For him to go to Yamamoto in that moment, knowing the amount of work that he had already put in the game before, throughout the series, the amount of pitches he had thrown, even though pitch count was pretty decent compared to the amount of innings he was playing, it was a gutsy call, and it was the right call. It was the right call because Yamamoto comes in, does his thing, and that's it, man. And, the game is won, and here we are. And look, my takeaways are this. Toronto, you have a hell of a team. And if you're a Toronto fan right now, you should be extremely happy with where this team's going. Now, I know that they have some contracts that they have to address, some guys that maybe, are on expiring contracts last year with the team, and they'll figure that out. They're going to have to figure out some personnel stuff. Vlad Guerrero was incredible. Varsho was incredible during the World Series. Like, they got some dogs over there in Toronto, man. And my other takeaway is Dave Roberts has solidified himself as one of the greatest managers to ever do it. I don't know where you rank him right now, but he's not done. And the decisions that he's made through specifically these playoffs has been nothing short of incredible. Matter of fact, it's my favorite word. It was fantastic. It was fantastic. And Yamamoto, I'm telling you right now, I might trademark that for you, man. Yamamoto, because the juice was there, man. The juice was there. And he just looked, man, he looked confident. Like, from last year to this year, the way that Yamamoto pitched and how he had control of the mound, it's different. It's different. So, kudos, man. Kudos to the Toronto Blue Jays. And if you're a fan of baseball, what a World Series. This is why the World Series is just better. It's just better, man. Incredible. Incredible. But you know what it is, man. Dodgers on mine. You know what I mean? Now, let's get into the NFL. Like I said, as of this recording, I'm recording this on Sunday, the 2nd of November. So I was able to watch, obviously, a Thursday night game, or I kept up with that game. And then the morning games, and then the afternoon games. And there was a lot there. Now, I will say, going into this NFL Sunday, like, there were only a few matchups that I was kind of excited about. A lot of them didn't really excite me, but a lot of the games held up. They held up. So let's get into the Ravens, man. Ravens fly high against the Dolphins. Lamar Jackson is back. He looked fantastic. Run game with Derrick Henry was there. He went off, like, Lamar Jackson went off. And that Snoop Huntley win the week prior, looks like a very, 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 very important win. Because, and I'm gonna pull it up right now. The rest of the schedule for the Ravens is light work at best. Let me see if I can let me find this real quick. I apologize to my audio listeners. I apologize to all y'all. I should have had this ready, but it's all right. It's what we got to do sometime. So let's go here. Cool. So the Ravens have the Vikings, the Browns, the Jets, the Bengals, the Steelers, which might be a tough one, the Bengals again, the Patriots, which should be a good game, the Packers, who we'll talk about in a little bit, and then the Steelers again. That is a favorable schedule going into the rest of the season. 2 more losses, they might be okay. Now, I don't know what it's gonna look like in the AFC West, because there's a few, obviously Chargers, Kansas City, Denver, and we'll talk about them in a little bit. And then the South, there's like some things happen today that are crazy, and we'll talk about in a little bit. So I don't know, like, as far as being that third, because they'll probably be, if the Ravens, go on a run and make it in, they'll probably be that third wild card team. And so does like 10-7 get you in? Possibly. I don't think they went out, because they, Steelers twice, like, those are going to be tough matchups, no matter how up and down the Steelers defense is. Patriots, have been playing well. But like the next few weeks, man, if they get their confidence back up and they get to rolling, they might sneak in. And that Snoop Huntley win might be the game that saved the Ravens season, because Lamar Jackson looked healthy. He looked loose. He looked like he just played well. And I know it was against the Dolphins, but it doesn't matter. You have to beat who's in front of you. Speaking of the Dolphins, news this week: Dolphins fired their GM Chris Greer, and decided to keep McDaniel for the rest of the season, and will evaluate when the season ends. Dolphins, you might as well just go ahead and pull the plug right now, because even if you do, like, you're going to get a new GM, they're most likely going to want to bring in their guy to coach. And I just think Mike McDaniel's lost the locker room at this point. Like, he's lost the locker room. I mean, GMs are a part of the things that go on in these organizations. And typically when one gets fired, the coach gets fired, or vice versa. Like, it's always kind of a tandem. GM and coach get up out of there. But I don't think they're going to do anything with Tua, because he's on that massive contract. So that always kind of, holds an organization down, especially at that position. Should they move off of him? Yes. I don't think they will. I think they'll try to go get a GM. Now, will that GM try to figure it out with Mike McDaniel? Like, do the Dolphins love Mike McDaniel enough to, like, bring in a GM that's going to be more tailored to him? Like, the GM's going to have to know, I'm going to have to work with Mike McDaniel. Feels like a scapegoat move by the Dolphins, and it feels like a BS move. Like, just be done with the season. I don't even try to salvage it. Tyreek Hill is gone for the rest of the season. Yeah, you got a bunch of guys over there, a Chain and Waddle, and Tua's up and down, but y'all not winning anything. So blow the whole thing up. Figure out what you're going to do with Tua going forward, but get McDaniel up out of there, and just be done with it. The strength of the Panther was not stripped away. The Panthers, you like that as my Black Panther reference, you know what I'm saying? I don't know how my accent was. You let me know. I thought it was pretty good. I worked on it. But the Panthers are quietly 5-4. They're quietly 5-4 right now. And they were on a run before Bryce Young got hurt. He got hurt. Didn't look too well with Andy Dalton, because we know what Andy Dalton is at this point. And they beat the Packers today. And it's weird. Like, I went and looked at, their wins. They got blown out a couple times by the Bills and the Patriots, I want to say. And they've had a couple shootouts. Like, the Panthers have looked up and down, but they are 5-4. And the way these games look today in the past couple weeks, and you have a quarterback healthy where teams don't have their quarterbacks healthy, they are just quietly kind of above 500. And I know it's just a little bit above 500. I don't know if I trust the Panthers because, especially in winning against the Packers offense, man, I don't know I don't know if they're good or not. I mean, they have the guys. Jordan Love is really good, but is he taking that step towards being great? Like the shoes that you have to fill as Jordan Love, that organization has had Hall of Fame quarterbacks throughout its history. You know, there's big talk at the beginning of the season. You know, Brett Favre won when he was 27. Aaron Rodgers won Super Bowl when he was 27. Jordan Love is 27. Is this a year? Green Bay Packers defense looks good. They got the run game. They've got a bunch of receivers. I know a couple guys have been in and out. You know, Detroit loses a couple coaches. Are they going to be the same? This is your year, Green Bay. We still don't know what's going on with Chicago. Minnesota's up and down. This is your year, Green Bay. And that defense has looked good during the season for the most part. That offense is like, I don't know. I don't know if they're good or not. I'm telling you right now. I have no idea because that game was I think it was 14-13. That game, they were just stagnant. Like they couldn't get the ball moving. Jordan Love got a lot of pressure, but they were getting pressure on Bryce Young. And I don't know, but the Panthers have been winning these weird games, and they're just quietly 5-4. So, do we trust them? If you're a Panthers fan, do you trust the Panthers right now? Do you think they're gonna, take your bias out of it? Do you think they're gonna go on a little run, maybe make the playoffs? NFC's tough. I don't know. The Bears, Caleb Williams against the Cincinnati Bengals. What a game. What a game. Every week the NFL has like one or two of these games where you're like, shouldn't have been a game. Wasn't even close in the first half. Sometimes the first three quarters. And then all of a sudden it's like, what? What was the score on that? Man, I went down to the store, man, to go get some more snack. For real? That's crazy. Because that's what happened with the Bears versus the Bengals. The Bears dominated this game. And if you notice with me, there's a running theme. No pun intended. Run the ball. Use the run game to help your goddamn quarterback be better. And Caleb Williams has had problems with holding on to the ball too long and just not freaking getting out into the field. Like sometimes you just got to take off. I know you don't want to get hit, and I know and we'll talk about some other quarterbacks in a little bit. But when Caleb Williams early in college, he would get out of the pocket and go. And then the last year in college, he just held on to the ball too long. And I love Caleb Williams, USC alum, did great things, obviously Heisman winner. But you did see this in college where he held on to the ball too long. He was trying to make, plays down the field, but there's nothing there, so just take off. Ill-advised throws, those magical throws that he would make started turning into interceptions. He doesn't turn the ball over too much, but I think that's kind of the offense. But in this game, they ran the ball very well, and he got out of the pocket and moved, and they put up points. And Bears defense is good. The Bears defense is solid, and they were for the most of this game against the Bengals until all of a sudden Flacco turned into damn playoff Flacco from the Ravens, and they ended up. I think it was 41 to 20 something at this point. I can't remember the exact score what the Bengals had. And I thought that game was over, man. I went to start doing some other stuff. I was cooking some food. And then I came back and it was 47-42 was the end score for the Bears. And I guess the Bengals came back. They ended up going up 42-41. And then Caleb makes a great throw down the middle to Kmet. I think it was Kmet. And they end up winning that game. And but I do want to say the way the Bears offense looked, the way they used the run game to help Caleb Williams out, And the way that Caleb Williams finally figured out that he can just like take off instead of like running east to west and trying to throw some crazy pass on the sideline. He did it a couple times this game, and it's going to be hard for him to get out of that habit. But I do think he did well in kind of figuring some stuff out. And he's still young. Like, I know we want these quarterbacks to be tremendous out the gate, but as we're seeing with a lot of these teams, you know, you can be really good early. You can come in and have a really good impact in the league as a young quarterback, but the league's going to figure you out to a certain extent, and it takes a couple years to get through that. It takes a couple years to get through that, man. Like, quarterbacks don't really enter their prime until they're like 5, 6, 7 years in the league, where they're at their apex best. They're still learning. They're still young. I mean, even if you're, you know, doing the full college thing now with the NIL and you're coming out a little bit later, and a lot of these guys reclass in high school, you're still, you know, 22, 23, 24 maybe by the time you get out and get into the NFL. So, like, you got to give these guys a chance. You know, the Bears have shown that they are not good at making decisions when it comes to quarterback or even developing quarterbacks. And I think Ben Johnson has done a great job so far this year with the expectations that they had, whether they were minimal. I mean, I didn't really expect them to go crazy this year, but they are right there. They're right there in the thick of things in the AFC North. And especially with some of the other games that took place, they did their thing. They did their thing. Defense let them down in this game, but that offense is starting to look like a Ben Johnson offense. I just want to have a PSA for you guys. The quarterback for the Indy Colts, his real name is Daniel, and we need to start calling him that because he looked like he was Daniel Jones again. Indiana Jones, I don't know where he was. I have no idea. But Daniel Jones, oh, he showed up. I don't know what the Colts were doing. The Colts played the Steelers, and the Steelers' defense has not been good all season. And this was probably their best performance yet. Like, TJ Watt was going crazy. And, you know, they picked – Daniel Jones had 5 turnovers, man. 2 fumbles lost, 3 interceptions, and they still only lost the game by 7. But JT had 45 yards. Now, I don't know if you saw what I said to the Atlanta Falcons, Colts. I don't know if you saw that. Maybe you should go watch that clip. So what the fuck are y'all doing? What the fuck are y'all doing, Colts? How the hell does Hat Trick Taylor every week 3 touchdowns, damn near, have 45 yards? They went into this game trying to prove that Daniel Jones was some type of MVP candidate, and he had people fooled last week. I think a lot of people were like, man, Daniel Jones is a real MVP candidate. I didn't, and you know I'm Oprah with the MVPs. I thought Taylor made him better, and they tried to do what the Giants tried to do when he was on the Giants, which was like, hey, we're going to show that Daniel Jones is that guy. Daniel Jones is a really good quarterback. Really good quarterback. Serviceable. Starter, for sure. Like, he's not a bum by any sense of the imagination. But you run that offense through JT. You've been running that offense through JT. That line is incredible. They run block probably the best in the NFL. Why did y'all change y'all minds this week against the Steelers? And TJ Watt, he's a pass rusher. Why do you want to drop back and try to show that Daniel Jones can throw when you have that guy, the best running back in the league this year, 45 yards? Good for you. So hopefully you got that experiment out the way, Colts, because it's not going to get easier from here on out. And you might find yourself looking at some different possibilities at the end of the season, especially with a team that is in that same division, who I don't trust, but we'll get to them in a little bit. The Vikings versus the Lions in the AFC North showdown. McCarthy put the nailer in the coffin. McCarthy passed to Naylor at the end of the game against the Lions, seals the games for the Vikings. Their defense looked fantastic. McCarthy looked serviceable. And obviously Carson Wentz got hurt, so they really had no choice. They had to put McCarthy in. He looked serviceable. I'll give him that. And look, shout out to Justin Jefferson, man, because he's one of those guys. He picks up his quarterbacks, and I think he's done a great job of that. You know, things he said in the media, pregame, postgame, you know, he's really been trying to boost up the confidence of J.J. McCarthy. And McCarthy looked decent. And like I just said about the Colts not, you know, using the run game, the Lions did not use the run game. The Vikings did. And then started to pass out of that. The Lions have two great running backs, nicknamed Sonic and Knuckles, in Montgomery and Gibbs, and did not use them. And that is a historical thing with Jared Goff, because Jared Goff will have these games where he'll look like Joe Montana. Like, he'll look incredible. He'll go off for, 400 or 500 yards, 4 or 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. Like, completion percentage crazy, 70, 80, 90%, whatever the case may be. And it'll fool you into being like, yo, Jared Goff is, and I love Jared Goff. Like, I think he is one of the better quarterbacks in the league, but you cannot rest your hats on Jared Goff being the guy when you got those two guys back there. Now, they got a bunch of guys, and this game was almost, Lions were making a comeback. But if you watch this game, Vikings were really dominating defensively against that Lions offense. And they were putting pressure on Jared Goff all night. Run game couldn't get going. I think Gibbs had like 20-some yards. And these teams need to stop abandoning the run game. All these teams have showed you the last couple years, outside of maybe Kansas City, that the run is very, 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 very important to be a successful team. And I don't know why, for the life of me, everybody wants to prove that their quarterback is great. Go win. So, but shout out to the Vikings, man. Kevin McConnell is a damn good coach. And they be doing their thing down there, man. They be doing their thing down there. I still don't trust McCarthy, but we'll see. The Vikings have a way. I think Wentz was just bad, and we'll see about McCarthy. They might do the same thing. So, like I said last week, I thought McCarthy was stealing the keys to the franchise. That might be true, but at least he brought the car back for this week. Atlanta, London Kickers falling down. London went the hell off for the Falcons. Hat trick. Looked like the receiver he did last year. And Penix looked really good in this game. Throwing some dimes. And they should at least tie this game against the New England Patriots. But 24-23 was the end score, and that was because that goddamn kicker, and you already know how I feel about kickers. Outside of a couple guys, man. San Diego's guy, I'm not going to say his name because it's crazy. Dallas Aubrey has been fantastic. Outside of a couple guys, what the hell are you missing PATs for, man? Missed the goddamn PAT to tie it. Like, at this point, everybody just go for 2. Unless you're Dallas or San Diego. Maybe Kansas City. Because PATs, man. PSA. Stop missing PATs, man. Because the Falcons had another ebb and flow, right? They looked really bad, and then this week they looked really good. And run game was there with both Robinson and Algier. And the pass game was definitely there. Like, Drake London was going crazy, man. He's got so much talent. It's just, like I said, that offense is up and down. And, the kicker let them down. They already fired the kicker they had at the beginning of the season. Now they got this guy. I don't know if they got to figure it out. They got to figure it out. But shout out to Drake London, man. You had a hell of a game. Penix, you had a hell of a game. So, Falcons, I want you guys to be good. All my Atlanta people, I want the Falcons to be good. I do. They got too much, like, superstar type talent over there for them to not be competitive in that, at least that division. But Patriots are still on a roll, man. I think that was more about the Falcons' damn kicker missing a PAT than anything, but we'll move on. Broncos country, let's ride. They win close again. They are now 7-2, and they win another close game. Bo Nix is he does his thing at the end of the games. I don't know what the secret sauce is with him and Sean Payton, Coach Sean Payton. They have something figured out. They're winning close games, and they're number one in that division right now. I think a lot of people knew they were going to be better than last year going into this year, and they haven't looked like incredible. But as we saw last year with Kansas City, they won a bunch of games, really close at the end of games, and then they ended up being in the Super Bowl. And I think nobody really had Kansas City getting that far unless you were a Chiefs fan. And there is something to be said when you are in these very, very close games during the regular season. Playoffs come along, and you kind of know how to manage them. And the Broncos win another close game. Now, the Texans, who they played, I'm sorry for not saying that. The Texans, who they played, lost C.J. Stroud to a whack-ass hit. He's, sliding down. It looked like targeting a little bit to me, but I don't want to get killed for saying that. It looked like targeting to me, and he ended up going out of the game, concussion protocol, and so he'll probably be out the next week as well. But he was doing well that game, man. He was finding Nico Collins early. Still getting Woody Marks integrated into the offense a little bit more, and the Texans looked halfway decent that game until Stroud went out and Mills came in, and this offense just wasn't the same, as we've seen with a lot of these teams and their quarterbacks. The Rams keep it rolling, man. L.A. stays hot, and they're real Super Bowl contenders. They are, Puka came back this game, but he ended up going out with some type of, I don't know if injury, he was hurt. He ended up going out, but, he's still finding – Matt Stafford is still finding Devontae Adams. They still got Kyron Williams, Corum, young running back, who they're using a little bit more now. Kyron Williams, who's a touchdown machine. Higbee, just continues to show his talents, especially in the red zone. Matt Stafford is getting into a groove at this point, and they're real Super Bowl contenders. So, but that, again, NFC West is tough, and we'll see what happens with the Cardinals versus the Cowboys, I think Monday night. So we'll get into that the next episode. We'll kind of see what happens. Mahomes invasion. Allen goes off early against the Kansas City Chiefs for the Bills, and the defense holds up their end of the bargain late with a crucial interception against Patrick Mahomes. Fantastic game. Bills dominated for most of this game. It looked like they were going to run away with it. Obviously, Kansas City got back into it, whether it's the refs, whatever you want to say, that's fine. Kansas City gets back into it. It's 28-21. Kansas City gets the ball back with 22 seconds left after a missed field goal by the Bills. And as you know, as most people know, giving Patrick Mahomes 22 seconds is like giving him a 2-minute drill. He's probably going to march it down the field. He had an interception on the series prior to that, and then they went for a couple of Hail Marys that Bills stopped, and that was the end of that game. And the Bills look good, man. Cook continues to roll, continues to get better. His role for the Bills is becoming larger by the week. And Allen's still Allen. He's still playing like one of the best quarterbacks in the league, at least top 2, top 3, depending on where you have him. But yeah, that rivalry is not going to go away for a while. as long as those two guys are playing. And I think no matter what happens, they should play each other once a season in the regular season. Now, I know that how they have the schedule and they have to do certain divisions and then they have their own division. But man, Kansas City versus Buffalo has to be a regular thing every year, as long as those two guys are in the league. And then the last game I saw, Jags versus the Raiders. Jags winning OT, and Geno looked terrible again for the Raiders. Offense couldn't figure it out. That game was like trash for damn near the whole game. It was like 9-6 going into the fourth quarter. And then all of a sudden the offenses woke up and they ended up tying it, going into overtime. Jacksonville marches down the field, scores a touchdown, and the Raiders go down the field, score a touchdown to tie the game. But, obviously you have to kick the extra point. They don't. They go for two, miss the 2-point conversion, and lose that game by 1. Now, I'll say this with the Jags. They might be the weirdest team in the NFL because as much as I've talked about some of these other teams that they can't figure it out, I don't know what the Jags' identity is. They want to tell us it's Trevor Lawrence, but he's so up and down. ETN is a solid running back, but they don't seem to use him how he should be used in that offense, not all the time. The Jags win these weird games at the end of the games. Like Trevor Lawrence will look great, and then he'll look horrible. They paid him a bunch of money. I don't know, but the Jags have a winning record, and if the Colts continue to make the decisions that they've made, that division might be up for grabs in a couple weeks. Like, I know they've only lost 2 games at this point as the Colts, but the Jags are right there on their heels, and I don't know. If you're a Jags fan, tell me what the identity is. Now, Travis Hunter was not available for this game. He's going to be out for weeks. Brian Thomas got hurt during this game as well. And like sometimes Trevor Lawrence will look like Clemson, Trevor Lawrence, and sometimes he'll look like his first year for the Jags. And so I don't know what the identity of this team is, but they might mess around if the Colts continue to do what they're doing. I don't think they will, but they might. If the Colts continue to play like they did today, the Jags might mess around and find themselves at least in the hunt or the discussion for that division. So that is it on my sports. I have other stuff, but I'm going to save it for next week. I don't want to keep you guys too long. You know what I'm saying? I love talking to y'all, and I appreciate y'all pulling up. But we got some more. There's a lot of sports coming up. We'll get into some NCAA next week. We'll get into some more NFL, all that good stuff. So now for the segment that tells you that the boob tube is so good, what you watching on the boob tube is so good, you have to force your ass to go to bed. I know when you binging, you watching something, it's fire, you like, damn, I got to go to bed. This is Turn the TV Off.
TV off, turn his TV off, turn his TV off, turn his TV off.
All right, for this episode's Turn the TV Off, the show that I am watching right now is season 5 of Slow Horses on Apple TV. If you have not watched Slow Horses, if you have Apple TV, please go ahead and watch it. There's 5 seasons out right now. It's slated for 7. There are very short seasons, about 6 episodes per season. And Gary Oldman, who was, what's his name in Batman, Detective Gordon in The Dark Knight. He plays Jackson Lamb in Slow Horses, and his character the way he plays this character is incredible. So Slow Horses is about British intelligence group. And they're basically the crap of the British intelligence. Like, that's where they send the screw-ups to go. And Jackson Lamb is a highly decorated British intelligence officer for the MI5. But, he's a drunk, and so he heads this group. And their nickname is the Slow Horses. The place they work out of is called the Slough House. Like, they are the crap of the crap when it comes to the MI5 and the British intelligence. And obviously you see where this is going. they end up not being so bad and figuring out some stuff. So it's just a hodgepodge of characters that are vastly different. And I'll tell you this, man, the series has been great. Season 1 through 5, the way they've developed the characters has been amazing. No one main character for real. I mean, I guess you could say Gary Oldman as Jackson Lamb is the main character, but every character has a really strong role, and they do a great job of developing them and making their stories come to life without interfering with the story of the seasons. And this season starts off with a bang. Season 5, like I said, slated for 7 seasons. So it's definitely something that if you have not watched, you can binge it and you could be excited for a couple more seasons to come. So Slow Horses on Apple TV. Go watch that thing. Go catch up with your boy. I'm not done yet. I still got a couple more episodes to go, but go catch up and let me know what you think of this show. Now, I know you guys are looking for some music to add to that daily playlist, whether you on the way to work or you cleaning the crib or you just want to have a good time, some good vibes. You're trying to go out tonight and you need something to put on, you know what I'm saying, while you vibe out. Well, that's why I'm here. This is What You Heard. All right, for this week's What You Heard segment, we've got Leon Thomas, Folks. I will tell you that when I first listened to this album, I was kind of iffy about it because there is crazy reverb on his vocals. And I went to audio engineering school, and so I have an ear for this type of stuff, and it was bothering me at first. And then the Miguel album came out, so I was really rocking with that. But then I went back and listened to this album, and I sat with it for about a week. And man, the vibes on this are really, really good. Now, it is a short album. It's right at the LP length, but it feels more like an EP, very short album. It's a quick listen, so it's definitely like a great car ride. A lot of funk, a lot of rock, a lot of R&B, a lot of electric type of sounds to it, electric guitar. Leon Thomas is super dope vocalist, does his thing, and like some great tracks on here for it. Like if you just want to vibe out and have a really, really good time, man, this is like drums are crazy on this. Really good album. My personal standouts are My Muse, my favorite track on the album. I think it's track number 2 on the album. Love that song. Like just the vibes of that song are really, really good. 5 More Minutes is really good. Like, man, just a good like head nodder, you know what I'm saying? Or you definitely gonna be saying, you listen to this song, that foot's gonna start tapping for real. And then Baccarat. Baccarat is, man, just the drums are crazy on this. The guitar is crazy on this. Like all throughout this album, folks, it's some really, really, really good music. And what I found was that the reverb did add to the feel of the album. So I will say it's not as good as Mutt, but Mutt was an incredible album, longer album as well. And then obviously you had the deluxe version. But if you're looking for a good car ride or something to listen to while you're cleaning the crib or whatever the case may be, go listen to Folks from Leon Thomas. Now we are at the end of the show where I give you my narrative for the week. So let's go ahead and end this thing off with this episode's narrative. So in church, they always say, look at your neighbor and say, right? And I want you to look at your neighbor and say, I want you to make it home. The other day was Halloween, and on the way home from my 9 to 5, there were multiple accidents. And whenever I have a long commute to and from work, and I always throw up a prayer, man. Just let me make it home. Let me make it home. When I leave, when I walk out my door, I just want to make it home. And I also walk through the world that way with other people. And that's not, patting myself on the back. It's something that I have to work on every day. I have to be mindful of it. But we, in this crazy, chaotic world and everything that's going on in this country, and the division between people and parties and races and all this other shit that's going on, we need to get back to looking at our neighbor and saying, I want you to be safe. I want you to make it home. I want your life to be good. Because the truth is, with all this crazy shit going on and all these people telling us how to feel and what to feel and, who to like and who not to like and who to go against, man, most of us are neighbors, man, especially where I live in Arizona, man. It's a hodgepodge of people, man. There's Mexicans, there's whites, there's blacks, there's Middle Eastern, there's Asian, everything. There's everybody out here, and everybody in my community, and everybody in a multitude of communities out here. Very, very mixed. And we got to start caring about each other a little bit more, man. We, when we leave, when we're on the road and we're driving, and I know, you're trying to get to work. I know you're trying to get to your son's practice, or, you're trying to get to that thing that you need to get to. And, you're hitting the gas, you're kind of weaving through traffic or whatever the case may be. And you're putting other people at danger. And we need to be mindful of each other as we walk through this world. Like, we all got shit, man. We all got shit. I don't care if you dead broke or you got hundreds of millions of dollars. Everybody got some shit they got to deal with. Everybody. And ain't no one person's shit more than the other person's shit. It's all the same. It just depends on how it affects you personally. And I know we want to be selfish. This world right now is just me. And I think the way we kind of eliminate that, at least on a minor level in our own personal lives, is don't be selfish. Like, help your neighbor. Be there for your neighbor. Disagree with your neighbor, but be there for them. And I think if we all get back to that, if we all get back to caring about the people that are around us in our communities, whether we friendly with them or not, just caring on a just human level, I think at least the worlds around us personally will be better. And so whether you agree with somebody's, preference or who they vote for, their party or their race, you don't really kind of deal with that race maybe on a day-to-day basis, and that just might be from your location or whatever that is, but it's still important to care. It's still important to care. It really is still important to care. And you don't know what that does, those little notions, those little things, those little interactions that you have with people, that showing just a little bit of care, how long that will carry with that person throughout that day, maybe throughout the week. You never know how that's going to affect somebody and how it's going to affect you. And so after you listen to this episode, after you watch this episode, I want you to move throughout the rest of this week, and I want you to look at your neighbor and say, I care, I want you to be safe, and I want you to make it home, because we all just trying to make it back home. That is my narrative for the week. That is the show for this week. Thank you guys again for tuning in to the A-Ward Show. I can't tell you how much, and I'm going to tell you every week, how much I appreciate you guys watching, how much I appreciate you guys pulling up in the social media, how much I appreciate you guys listening on the audio platforms. It means so much to me. It really does. And if you've been on my social media, whether it be TikTok, Instagram, or whatever, you'll know that I do interact. I do comment back. I do read, and I do try to comment back. I try. So whether you're tapping in on YouTube, whether you're listening on, Apple or Spotify or whatever, whether you're just checking out my clips on social media, the love is madly appreciated. And y'all know what to do, man. Hit that link tree. Follow me on all these other places where I could be at, you know what I'm saying? And if I'm not there, let me know. I'll pull up make sure you tell a friend to tell a friend to tell their cousins, their mama, and their grandmama and them. Pull up to the A-Ward show. I love y'all. Y'all be safe. Have a fantastic week. And I'll see you, y'all, turkeys, next week.